So this is a revision video for the overrated essay. You need to have this video open, and then in another window, go ahead and open your actual essay. I'm going to give you some points and I want you to follow along, and then the expectation is you revise based on the feedback that I provide here in this video. I'm seeing the same type of writing trends across the class, so I think this video will help address that as we move forward. The first thing you want to look at, your T-chart. The planning is very important. So do you have 3 pro points? Pro proving that something that you believe is overrated. And then are each of those points based in a universal idea? Check that now. And there should be a phrase around that idea. And that each of those points has an opposition, or what would an opponent say of that point, and that is your counterpoint. So when you look at the thesis, and that's really the first thing I want you to look at when you're revising your essay, everything always goes back to the thesis. So the thesis construction starts with a counter argument, beginning with a word that tells us it's a counter argument, like although, or though, or even though, or despite. So this writer has chosen though, and then here is this writer's counter argument. The transition construction between the counter and your argument, you have to memorize. It's a semicolon after the counter, in fact, or another transition phrase that you choose, comma, and then you have your argument. So you're going to have to pause the video and really take a look at your own thesis statement. And the expectation is that you have it in order, including the punctuation. And what I see that this writer needs to do, and I want you to check your own, do you drop down the 3 universal ideas with their phrasing from the pro side of the table? Do you drop those 3 things down in the thesis? And so this writer would need to do that. I see really like maybe 1.5 things, so that they need to go up and drop them down. So pause the video and revise your thesis based on the feedback I just provided. Okay, so now we're going to take a look at your topic sentences. It has to include a what and a why. So the what is your claim and the why is really so what? What's the impact? What is the result? So to get to the why, I like this phrase due to, but you can also have because, or you can also have comma which. So this writer needs to put this into a sentence. Check to make sure that you have a sentence where the first idea from your pro chart, which is also the first idea in your part, your claim in the thesis, drops down to be the foundation of your topic sentence or claim for paragraph 1, and then make sure you have a so what or a why after that. And just pause the video and check to see if you need to revise. Okay. So now we're going to take a look at the paragraph structure itself. I'm looking for, do you have those stems from the Padlet or your notebook, the counter argument stems? And do you have a counter argument? Do you have specific evidence? And do you have 4 to 6 sentences of reasoning from that argument starter sheet? That argument starter sheet is here on our Padlet, our home-based Padlet, and 4 to 6 of these right here. Even if you feel like you can write it on your own, I want you to take this phrasing and experiment with it. You need some of this to introduce your evidence, and then you need at least 1 counterpoint language, and then throw in some transitions to move from paragraph to paragraph or idea to idea in your paragraph. So it's like sort of like a recipe, right? You're throwing everything in. So my feedback to this writer is that I need to see 4 to 6 sentences of that argument reasoning. Here is a specific impact, which is telling me here's the evidence, right? And so really this writer is saying something about the student's performance in school. So this writer would have to get to, well, what about the student's performance in school? So maybe it needs an adjective before performance to describe that a little bit more. And then a piece of feedback I'm giving a lot is make explicit the connection between what you're writing to what you're proving. So everything you write is in service of the topic sentence here, which is the same thing from here. Everything has to prove, in this particular paragraph, everything has to prove this. Just because you know it proves it in your head is not enough. So you need to add in some explanation language to explain to your reader how you see what you wrote, how that proves your main claim for each paragraph, which would be up here. Okay, so when I'm going down to look at this, I read college entails your ability. One feedback is if you're playing around with new language and vocabulary, just hold off on it and write as you normally would talk and then go back in and add that new vocabulary. So it needs to be made clear. So college helps you to be independent and responsible with getting work done on time. And most students' mental health is caused by stress by the amount of tasks they have to complete at a given due date and pressure of penalties given. It is clear in this writer's head what they want to say. It's long, and so my feedback is how is college helps you become independent and responsible? How is that related to what comes after? Right? So for some of your longer sentences, break it down. How are all the parts related? Do you have the right conjunction? Do you have the right joining word? Should it be and? Should it be but? Should it be although? So you're really breaking down what you write. If you have a this or that, make sure you replace it with what it is this is, right? So I don't know what this is in this writer's mind. They need to replace it with a specific thing that stands for this. Same thing here with the they. So look at your pronouns. Those are ambiguous, meaning we're not really certain who they is, right? Or who this is. This writer needs, I would say, to bring up a specific point of evidence to prove that students' performance in school is lessened, right? And then going back here to make sure that this writer is proving this, and then make sure that that is this number one from up here. Okay, so it's the organization piece, and this is pretty similar to what I'm seeing in the class, right? We know that these need to be drawn out. This writer did a great job of adding in the for instance, resulting in, another way. And then one thing I want to show you, so before we move on, if your paragraphs are looking like they could be extended, right? That's my feedback to this writer. 4 to 6 sentences of reasoning plus a counter argument. And that counter argument, I'm not seeing here. So go back to this the starter sheet and take a counter from here and plug it in to fit your own essay. This writer started each paragraph with a counter argument. So you see it with the despite this semicolon, in reality, comma. So it's like 2 for 1, right? The sentence comes right at the beginning. And we think that this is probably going to be this writer's claim, right? Topic sentence. So yes, people are glorifying Jeffrey Dahmer. So this writer makes it work 2 for 1, meaning bringing the first point in the pro chart down here to the topic sentence and using it, using a counter argument with it. So it's almost like a mini thesis statement, that topic sentence, constructed the same way as the thesis statement. This writer needs a thesis statement. So the first thing I'm looking at is that thesis statement. And then this writer would need to extend the last 2 paragraphs. I haven't read those thoroughly. So, all right, one phrasing that this writer does here, we must question why as a society, right? Society has clearly overvalued the content of the show. Take a look at your conjunctions. If you have a because, right, you do not need a since, right? So you want to make sure that if I have a conjunction, what's on either side needs to be clear and they need to be related, and that conjunction needs to be the appropriate one to relate them. So this video focused in on the organization, and it is very methodical, and it is as clear as taking from the pro chart, dropping into the thesis here, okay, right here, and dropping down to each body. The first draft that you submit is 50 out of 50 for submitting, for doing it, right? If you have 3 complete body paragraphs, so this person wouldn't earn a 50 out of 50 because there's not, body 2 and 3 are not complete. There's no thesis. So then you would earn out of 100 the points for the revision piece. And I will give to you that rubric so that you understand what that revision looks like. So the revision is going to be due Wednesday. The second. Okay.